I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. All that stuff we didn't learn in grad school, we've had to pick up along the way. We want to bring it together in a way that you can have some implementation. Just today, I was in the Practice Academy working with a bunch of people that are moving from solo into group practice in our group practice launch program. And it was interesting how many of them felt like they had consumed a ton of information but still didn't know what to do. They were just more confused. And so we often like to say we are past the information age, we are in the implementation age. That's what consulting does, that's what this podcast does, that's what the Practice Academy does. We want you to implement faster. We want you, as a result of listening to this show, being a part of our community, to just implement so much faster. We just got back at the time of this recording from the Dominican Republic, where we had the seven-figure practice retreat. We had over 35 private practices in the seven-figure range. And to just see how when you have the right people in the right room, you don't have to really do a whole lot. There was no information. We didn't even have the package at the all inclusive where we got the computer screen and all that. It was literally just getting people together at the tables, talking about what they wanted to talk about, and then sending them outside to go have conversations around couches and campfires and to just develop those connections. To me, that's where the next phase of business is, where it's not just about consumption, it's about action that we take that hits us in our soul, that hits us in a deeper place, that really helps us define our purpose differently. And seeing these 35 people, I mean, one lady came up to me and said, "This is the single best thing I've done for my business in the entire time of our business." I've been getting texts from people that they have connected with one another. They're continuing after the conference to be connected. That's to me the kind of events we like hosting here. So that's why I'm so excited to have Rob Craven with me. Rob is a purpose-driven CEO, founder, and author committed to radically evolving capitalism by connecting personal purpose to business success. As the former CEO of Mega Food and Garden of Life, Rob led both companies to achieve rapid growth, B Corporation status, and successful exits. His leadership took Garden to Life to number 14 on the Inc. 500 list and earned Mega Food multiple Best Places to Work awards in New Hampshire. Recognized as one of the top conscious business leaders by Conscious Company Media, Rob now leads Scale Passion, a consulting firm that empowers business leaders to harness purpose and scale their companies. His mission is to help leaders radiate impact across their organizations and the world. Rob, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast.
What a pleasure to be here, Joe. Sounds like you're on purpose for sure.
Yeah, we try to be. We want to learn all those things we didn't learn in grad school, and love the process in the process. So,
Love
take
that.
me back to a time when maybe purpose wasn't as front and center for you.
Oh, wow. Great question. The first story that pops into my mind is I worked for a company. I won't name the company, but it was a very large medical device company. And I learned a ton. Don't get me wrong. They were very, very good at sales. But I was a salesperson down in South Florida. We were calling on hospitals. I think my purpose back then was the same, which is scaling impact. And these hospitals were certainly making an impact. And in the specialty I was in, they were doing good work with people and helping patients, et cetera. But scaling impact to me was built on relationships and built on a really incredibly deep relationship with the nurses and the doctors and the people that I served in those hospitals. So I didn't participate in contests. So what I later learned was that this company drove their stock price by doing contests at the end of every quarter, during the quarter, and it drove their stock price. It's very, very important to them. But when you did a contest for a medical device firm, you're basically loading them up with several months, if not a year's worth of product based on the relationship that you have with them. And I just didn't play. Now, by contrast, I had 5 of my 8 major hospitals on 5-year partnership terms, long-term engagements, long-term contracts, whereas the next closest salesperson only had 1 maybe of their hospitals. So I had these deep, long-term, locked-in relationships, but they weren't valued as highly as the contests because that's what drove the stock price underneath it all. And so that's just one example of where I was kind of disconnected from purpose. That same company I'm from Florida, and they had a big sales event in Orlando, and I wore light blue linen suit because it was 90 degrees at the Contemporary Hotel in Orlando. And everybody else is in their dark navy, dark gray, power tie. And my boss came over to me and said, "You're embarrassing the hell out of me. Get out of here right now. Go put on another suit." And that's when I knew I was in the wrong spot. So, couldn't express my passion, couldn't express my individuality. It was all about being a part of this community in a way that that didn't really resonate with who I was, and was certainly off purpose for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it sounds like you were a bit of an individual thinker when they just wanted a whole bunch of people that would step in line.
That's the beauty of purpose. Once, I happen to believe all of us have a purpose, small, big, it doesn't matter to me. Those are just stories. Um, but most of us don't take the time to make our purpose conscious. It's unconscious. It's like it pulls us towards something. But many people don't take the time to make it conscious. And the first step in really harnessing your purpose and bringing that energy that you can plug into is the act of making it conscious. And once you've got it on a post-it note on your monitor that you can look at every day, now you know whether you're in purpose or not each day. And so it's one first step. And so since then, I've been seeking and allowing this flow towards what I should be doing in the world. And now I'm happy to say I spend 90% of my time in that purpose. Another way to say it is zone of genius. Another track towards purpose is zone of genius. Gay Hendricks wrote about that in The Big Leap, and I'm a big fan of that. And but yeah, it's a limitless source of energy that I want everybody to be able to tap into.
Yeah. It makes me think about a lot of conversations we have in our house. My partner, Claire, she hosted the Indigenous Knowledges podcast, where
Mm,
they dug really deep into local Indigenous knowledge and really elevated Indigenous teachers and speakers. And it took like 2 years to build up the trust to have a white woman come in and be able to talk to these folks. But
mm,
one of the big kind of takeaways for her that she already was feeling is just how much we've lost through having such a capitalistic society, like this false sense of urgency, this false sense of identity coming through what we do, and just like how there's lots of different ways to think about how we live our life. And so
mhm,
I'd love to zoom out a little bit because even in your bio, you have radically evolving capitalism.
mhm.
When you think about the critique of capitalism, like, yes, we live in this system. We're not going to probably be able to completely change it. We have to operate within it. But what is your critique of capitalism? What is your thought process around what evolving capitalism looks like?
Yeah, from a critique standpoint, I do my best not to vilify or demonize, a system that's been good to billions of people. If you think about the rising middle class, there's lots and lots of benefits to, I'll call it capitalism 2.0. So capitalism 2.0 sprang out of the 70s. An economist basically said that companies exist only for their shareholders. That's
Mm.
it. So it's really interesting. Most people think that's a law, that's like somehow legal, but it's just been so ingrained in us through business school and how companies are run. The stock price or the revenue or the profitability of a company has become paramount and central, and the shareholder is the only the in most of business is the only benefactor of all of that. It's not the law. In fact, many companies from the industry I came from, Natural Products is kind of a leader in this. If you think about B Corp, the B Corp movement, if you're familiar with B Corp, kind of came out of Natural Products to a large degree.
And will you
Um,
talk about what B Corp is? Because some people might not be familiar with that.
Sure, bcorp.net, B Corporation. A B Corporation kind of sits in between a nonprofit and a C Corp. It's basically a company that has in their legal written documents is recognizing more than just the shareholder. It's recognizing all the stakeholders. And so the B Corp organization has set up a set of criteria that you have to apply to and maintain third party oversight to show that you are dedicated to more than just the shareholder, more than just making money, that you're trying to do good in the world, businesses that are doing good in the world. And that's capitalism 3.0 to me. Capitalism 3.0 is, you know what? We've learned a lot from capitalism 2.0. We've learned how to manage risk because it's all about managing risk. We got to manage that risk down, and we've learned how to make money for shareholders. Great. Now, let's learn some lessons from other companies that have also been able to add impact for all stakeholders into that, whatever that might mean. And so, for your audience, whether it's a small or a big organization, how can you make impact? So I call that kind of the right brain measures. In addition to the left brain measures, the left brain measures are very easy. It's like net profit or revenue. There's measurable, tangible measures, growth. These are kind of tangible left brain measures, risk management. The right brain measures might be something like, in our world, we track purpose. We track individual leader purpose, and we track corporate purpose, and how on purpose are we? And we're able to track that through that's our right brain measure. So what might bringing a little more right brain into the left brain capitalism 2.0 do to allow us to evolve to capitalism 3.0, which is making money, being financially sound. If you can't be financially sound, you can't keep people employed, you can't grow, and impact. You can do both. And I think most people want to separate that. And I've spent the better part of the last, almost 25, 30 years as a CEO trying to teach, exhibiting that through the companies that I've run, but now trying to teach people how to do that in a practical and tactical way. How do you do both? How do you have impact in your business, measure that impact, dedicate to that impact, bake that into the strategy, and make money and keep it alive and grow and help your community and, through employment, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, talk more about kind of peppering right brain, maybe not even peppering, maybe full on dumping right brain thinking into what's often a left brain way of thinking.
Yeah, I'm heavily influenced and trained. Actually, I'm a certified 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership coach. So there's this great book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it to your audience, called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. It does a wonderful way of making the concept of bringing consciousness and right brain thinking into an organization very tactical and practical. It's just a fantastic book. I brought it into one of the companies that I ran, Megafood, you mentioned, in a deep way. And not only did we use it to navigate a major change in our company that led to significant growth and results and ultimately the sale of the company, but it also impacted people on the line. We had a manufacturing facility, and I had one of the people on the line come up to me and say, "Hey, I just want to thank, I knew this person, but not very well." And tears in his eyes, he basically said, "Look, I just want to thank you for saving my marriage." These concepts, I never thought I would get concepts and training at work that would help me save my marriage. So bringing in things like 100% responsibility or conscious listening, teaching people how to actually listen. We don't do that very well. The power of emotions. Emotions are not necessarily welcome in most businesses. And I would say the businesses that learn how to harness, the leaders and the businesses that learn how to harness emotion, learn faster and can make better decisions. And create an environment and a culture that's very fulfilling for everyone to be there and to not have to hide. It takes a lot of energy to hide who we are. And so not expressing emotion or not saying what needs to be said in the right kind of way, in a loving, candid, way, all these things take training. All these things take thought. And we're not taught how to do this. In fact, just the opposite. We're taught how to hide all these things in business. And I would submit that that's lowering fulfillment. It's lowering cultural, building a culture of impact. It's lowering joy in an organization. And when you can harness that and teach people how to do it, I've experienced that as really driving growth. They go hand in hand. It's the yin and yang. It's like using the whole brain. We're going to get a little farther than if we're just trying to use the left side.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about just that suit example you gave of just wearing the wrong color suit, and how much of it is like men having to get the approval of other men, that these like power brokers are saying, no, you wear blue or gray suits. Like, you don't wear light blue. God forbid you be like Jesse from the Savannah Bananas, who wears a bright yellow tuxedo everywhere he goes.
Love that.
Like,
Yeah.
he was on my show, and like right when he started that was around episode 100 or so. And it's like, it's interesting though, because it's two very different worldviews, where one is saying it's very top down. There's a script, there's a code, there's like a who's in, who's out. The light blue suit people are out, definitely. Whereas what I'm hearing from you, and I'm sure there's more to add to it, is adding right brain thinking in adds the wonderful and beauty and creativity of diversity, of different ways of thinking, of active listening so people feel heard, of doing things that better the human soul and the company. And so to hear this guy who the things he learned at work helped his company, or helped his marriage, and probably also helped the company, Like to me, I'm like, why wouldn't the blue suit, the dark blue suit people want that? Like what, why does that challenge it so much? I guess
Yeah.
why do you think that this isn't just like done across the board?
It's ingrained, right? I'm not red, I'm not blue. It's ingrained everywhere, and it all stems from fear. It all stems from the fact that the amygdala, that part of the brain that's fight, flight, flee, you know what I mean? That part of the brain tends to have a control over us that we're unaware of. It's fear. This person doesn't fit my tribe. They're a threat. Now it's totally unconscious. I do not judge people. This is how we're brought up. Boys don't cry. Girls have a certain role. Like business is a certain way. It's all about the profit. All these things are just stories that have been made up over the years that are so ingrained in society that we're unaware or unwilling to bring some consciousness to it and say that's just a story.
Hmm.
And so allowing for this flow is something that people have to be given permission to do. I have clients all the time who are trying to break through this and they just need a little permission and also some training around how to do it with love. This isn't about judgment. It's not about telling people what to do or how to do it. It's just giving some permission that, you know what? Not only are we going to continue to grow in a way that's more fulfilling for you, but we're going to probably grow even faster. And we're going to unlock a lot more energy that's going to make this fulfilling for everyone. So I tell all my clients, number one, I stand for your personal fulfillment. Yes, I've built and scaled lots of companies and I can help you scale your company. Like if you want to grow from 10 million to 100 million, I can help you do that. And I'm not going to do that if you're not personally fulfilled. So let's start with that. And if you're a founder, an entrepreneur, you're leading a practice, you have to go first. You have to commit to personal fulfillment. You have to commit to the learning these kinds of things and doing it in a way that expands your consciousness before you can help others do it. You cannot go where you have not been. And so, we start off with the founder or the leader first, and then we push it down to the organization in a way that allows people to practice these things in a way that teaches them that it's okay. It's not scary. You have to put your toe in the water first before you do a big cannonball, right? So it's how do you ease into these methods is really crucial. And I think there's a lot of folks who are committed to that. And our company, our firm, myself, and in particular, I'm 100% committed to personal fulfillment first. And so it's how do you learn to practice these things is really where it all goes.
Yeah, where do your what do your personal habits look like? Like what are regular things that you're doing for yourself? Because if you're not doing your own work, it's hard to encourage other people or other businesses to do it. Like what does your own work look like in personal habits and ways that you're becoming a better person?
Yeah, let me start broad and then bring it back down just to give you the
Yeah.
broader construct. So, we work with a lot of founders who want to build a business that makes a difference in the world. And most founders I know, 9 out of 10 people start a practice. They start what they're doing because they care about people. They want to make a difference in the world. Over time, the pressure of the business or an investor or a strategy that's not working out or some debt or debtor starts to squeeze that passion out. Okay. So, if you think about we call it stage three. I wrote a book on this, and stage three in the book is radiating purpose. If you want to build a business, an organization that radiates purpose, that's stage three. You back that up into stage two, which is being really clear on what the business purpose is, and then scaling that business. Okay. So baking that into the culture and scaling a business that has a culture and core values and mission and purpose and all those things that goes with it in a way that's very thoughtful, right? So that's stage two. And then stage one is backing it up to harnessing your own personal purpose. So to your point, Joe, as the founder of Scale Passion and, as somebody with a bunch of clients who are trying to do this, I'm very clear on what my purpose is. Okay. I'm on this planet to scale impact. I ignite fires inside of founders and CEOs that help them to harness their own purpose to scale the impact of their business. Okay. So this is my personal purpose. I did a lot of work on that. I'm still doing work on it. It's evolving. And then underneath the personal purpose is what we call a personal flight plan. It's almost a business plan for me, for the leader. And so that includes what's going on in my life right now that's important. What's my purpose? What are my core values? What am I trying to accomplish in life? What's my vision? That vision could be next week. It could be in 6 years. It could be, 30 years, right? So, and then another key question in the personal flight plan is what are my daily energy drivers? They're going to be different for everyone. So you asked, what are my daily habits? One of my daily habits is to read my personal flight plan. Okay. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I go work out, I come back, I walk my dog, I sit down, I read my personal flight plan. I absorb that a little bit, and then I meditate. Meditation is important for me because it brings me energy. It's a learning edge that I'm learning about how to expand myself. It's going to be different for other people, what brings energy. So the workout brings me energy. The meditation brings me energy. Walking my dog, believe it or not, is the best place for me to think. I do that without, podcasts on or anything like that. And then another big one for me for personal energy is dating my wife. Like, I want to date her 3 or 4 times a month. So I make that intentional because I travel a lot. So I want to spend some time with her. So everybody's going to have their own different daily energy drivers. And part of this, again, is just making the unconscious conscious. It's like, how do we go through this? And we have resources where you can go online and do your own personal purpose work through a course, online course, for free. If anybody wants, scalepassion.com, check it out. Reach out to me, rob@scalepassion.com, no problem. It's all for free. I just want people to open their consciousness. And then the same thing is, now we're going to connect that into business to make sure that I stay in that zone in the business, whatever role I'm in that business. Is how do I harness this personal purpose and bring it into my business and make that connection? I call that exponential purpose. If you can make that connection, now you got something, especially if you're a founder, practice leader, if you're in charge of the team, whatever it might look like. That's real power there you can harness.
Now, tell me about some of the activities you do or homework assignments with folks you work with, because sometimes that practical, like, here's where someone was at, here's some homework I gave them, can just be so helpful to help shift people's mindset.
Sure. I just wrote about this. I actually coach a lot of generational businesses. So whether it's spouse, a husband, wife, or siblings, or father started the business, now the daughter is running the business. If you think about those dynamics, there's a lot going on there. And we tend to default to the persona of our childhood. So even if it's siblings or even if it's married couples, we tend to go back to our childhood because spouses have a tendency to kind of tip us in that direction. It's like that learning edge, that that unconscious trigger. We trigger each other a lot. Spouses, a lot of times I see with spouses, is they want to keep each other safe. They want to protect each other. So fathers and daughters, it goes back to that typical father-daughter relationship. So if you think about that, part of what I try to do in those times is get the person to step into a new persona. But the first step is to recognize the persona they're in. Does that make sense? So if I'm the son of a father who started the business, and I do have a persona that I play with called Little Robbie. Okay. And Little Robbie is my persona inside of me that just wants approval. And if I'm working for my father, it's highly likely I want my father's approval. Right. So this is all unconscious. This is all the amygdala just playing with us every single day. People don't want to, a lot of people aren't skilled at bringing this into consciousness. So the first practice I have with a client is, okay, hey, Joe, like if you're my client and you've identified a little Joe inside of you that's just seeking approval, I might say, hey, Joe, your practice for the next week is just to find an icon, find an emoji, okay, that represents little Joe. And every time little Joe pops up, I just want you to send me that emoji. I just want you to text me, okay? Mm-hmm. So all we're doing is just practicing the consciousness of seeing little Joe. That's half the battle, just knowing that little Joe is triggered. Versus Joe CEO. Like if your father founded a business and now you're the CEO of the business, there's a persona that you can play called Joe CEO, Joe Badass CEO, right? Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So being able to choose that starts with the awareness that it's here. And so a lot of times I'm just helping people practice that awareness. Let's just bring a little awareness. There's nothing to solve. Like, in fact, I just want you to give little Joe a little love. You know what I mean? There's nothing to solve, just awareness, awareness, awareness. So that's part of it. Another thing I spend a lot of time with clients doing is just understanding their learning edge. Like, where are they afraid to grow? And leaning in on that. Like, for us to scale ourselves, for us to scale our own personal leadership and purpose, we have to go where it's a little scary. Stoicism calls it, the obstacle is the way, and kind of leaning in on that. So we create all kinds of techniques and challenges for people to kind of just lean in. Again, it's putting that toe in the water. Can we put the foot in the water? Can we put the leg in the water? We don't have the cannonball, but we need to practice. We need to see. It's cold, but we can get used to it or whatever. Is that helpful? Is that what you were kind of?
Yeah, I think I mean, it reminds me a lot of IFS parts work of recognizing, okay, this part of me is coming up this ego state and this ego state, and just like being able to start to like name it and
Yeah,
to,
observe it. Yeah.
I love that idea of having people just send you the emoji to just, just start to be aware of it. I think it sounds similar also to like in meditation when you see that idea of like, oh, I'm thinking about work and just let that just float away. Like I
Yeah.
see that. I see that distraction. It's going to keep moving. But just to notice it, not have it be, to move it just slightly from the unconscious to being slightly conscious of it. No, I think that's really helpful. And I think that it's, sometimes we think there's this magic formula that, people that are 7 or 8 figure business owners have cracked this exact formula. But so often what I see is there's still that little Joey that's in there that, is insecure. And, even just today, in the Practice Academy, we've been doing this intensive all week where new people in group practice launch come every single day for 4 days, and I'm like helping coach them to kind of jumpstart.
Hmm.
And two people yesterday had said, "I'm going to do this by tomorrow," and then they came, and these are people that are like, middle aged, and they're like, "I felt shame for not getting my homework done, and actually thought I might not come to class today."
Hmm.
And it was just a good reminder to say, you are making progress no matter what. Like you are accepted here. We'll give you a virtual hug when you need it. We'll give you a virtual kick in the pants when you need it. But there's no shame around not getting something done. I'm sure there's lots of great reasons that you had to put time into other things. And so even just seeing that kind of child not having their homework done show up with these full grown adults, it's like we all have that stuff. And to be around community with other people that say, no, like you're making progress either way. Like just notice that emoji and send it to me. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and the practice that I've learned over, this was taught to me over many many years, and it's still a practice today. But first, it's being able to just acknowledge that little Joey is there or little Rob is
Mhm.
there, just being able to acknowledge it, and then allowing, kind of breathing and just allowing the little one, to be there, and then ultimately you can work your way up to appreciating it. Of course, little Robbie just wants to be approved of course.
Mhm.
The practice is little Robbie might be 6 years old. And if the 6 year old in front of you had this, had this sadness or had this need or had this unconscious, commitment to approval, whatever it might be, of course, they're only 6 and that
Mhm.
one's inside of you. So if you can get to the point where you can see that part of you that you just don't appreciate or you don't love, and you can allow it just for a little bit, breathe into it, and then ultimately come to appreciate the one that's there. It's there to teach you something. Now we can start to make some real progress because now we can see it and we can decide to give the little one a little appreciation, a little love, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then say, it's okay, I got this. Like, you know what I mean? And you can shift, you're shifting things. You're able to appreciate it and shift to another part of your consciousness. And so this is kind of the right brain stuff that goes with business. It goes hand in hand with the left brain because I've got a client. I've got a client that's basically a group of brothers that run the business, and they were handed the business from their parents. And the none of them would admit or would say that they were good CEO material. They were just out of their place, but they were doing it out of obligation. Their parents had long died, but they were still stuck in obligation. And so
Mhm.
the concept of being able to go to them with a little love and say, of course, you just want to do right by your parents. Of course, you just want to make them proud. And I stand for your personal fulfillment. And I think they would too. Okay.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? So let's just back that up. Now, they weren't able to do that work until my team was able to come alongside of them and help them with the left brain. Like, what's the strategy for the business? Let's harness the strategy. Let's get clear on the purpose. Let's get clear on the OKRs, objectives and key results, all the left brain stuff that goes with building a business. Like, how do we do the pro forma? How do we do the forecasting? How do we do the budgeting? What are our key measures? What are our KPIs? So that left brain stuff goes hand in hand because until that was clear to them, their nervous system couldn't relax enough for them to do their personal work. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this it's not just about right or left. It's both. Especially if you're the founder, especially if you're the practice leader. If you're the leader of a practice and people are relying on you for their check, right, to their survival. Understanding the business strategy is a great way if that's really really clear and everybody's aligned on it to level out the nervous system a little bit so that you can do your own personal work, so that you can even see it. Sometimes you can't see it because the business is just all encompassing. So it goes hand in hand. We're talking a lot about the right because it's so unusual a lot of times in business, but it goes hand in hand with the left brain as well.
So good. Um, Rob, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
Hmm. I think what comes to mind for me, Joe, is like if well, there's two paths my brain wants to go. I would say that probably 40% of the founders and the leaders I work with are doing it out of obligation. It's not for fulfillment. And so if your audience can't see a path to fulfillment, if they're doing it for some other reason than it being on purpose, then I would beg them to pull on that string. And the first step there is to understand their purpose and figure out where that energy comes from. It's a higher level resonance of energy when you're on purpose. It just vibrates at a different level. And to have courage, to have the courage to lean into that, recognizing that their amygdala is going to tell them it's not safe and it'll never work, but that's just a story. Okay. It's been my experience that the more someone leans into that energy of personal purpose and really pulls on that string, the world manifests around them to support them in their purpose. The money flows, the things get, it all happens. So, but the amygdala is going to fight that tooth and nail. Okay. So that's the courage to pull on that string if it isn't right for you. If it is right, I'd say courage is the same word. Have the courage to be bold as hell. Like, go for it. Like, really make the purpose conscious, really understand, like have a statement. I exist too. This is why I exist. I exist to do this thing in the world. And put that on a Post-it note in your car if you're in your car, if you're in your car a lot. Put that on a Post-it note on your monitor if you're in the office a lot. Put it somewhere where you can see it every day, and then measure everything you're doing against it and be bold. If it's not in line with it, say no. Don't qualify it. Don't, there's a thing we've been talking about, a whole body yes, head, heart, and gut. Sometimes our head says this is the right thing. If I don't do it, I'm going to get fired and I'm going to lose my house. And those are all stories. Okay. And sometimes our emotion tells us it's the right thing, but our head says it's not. So lining up the head, heart, and gut is a way to have a whole body yes to something. And if it's not a whole body yes in resonance with your purpose and your zone of genius and who you are as a human being, say no. Say hell no. Like, stick to it. Make a commitment to do it bold, to stay in it as long as you can, to spend as much of your time in that purpose as possible. And if you find yourself doing stuff outside the purpose, like I'm not a detail guy, I do not handle my calendar, I barely handle my email. Like, I just can't, it's not in my purpose. Like, somebody does that better than I do. Someone will always do that better than I do. So find people you can surround yourself with where their purpose matches up with yours and it becomes complementary. Now you'll radiate purpose. Now you'll scale your business. Now you'll start to really unlock what wants to be unlocked towards radiating purpose in the world and making a real difference.
So good. Rob, if people want to work with you, if they want to connect with you, where should we send them?
Yeah, scalepassion.com is the way to go. I've got a Substack I just launched. I'm excited about it. Rob Craven, Scale Passion on Substack as well, if you want to follow me there. And I try to send out at least weekly, a couple times a week, just tips, simple tips. I like to keep things practical and tactical. Like, how do you do a purpose? Like, there's ways to do that. You reach out to me. I'm happy to point you in that direction as well. Yeah, it's not about making money for me, although that's helpful and it's part of, keeping me going. But the purpose resonates. I want to make sure that every leader out there knows how to harness their personal purpose to make real impact in the world.
So good. Well, Rob, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I appreciate the opportunity.
My big takeaway, I have a couple of them. What gives me energy? At the time of this recording, we're several months into the new year. We started doing lemon water right when we wake up, and then doing celery juice. And then I've added back in my smoothie that I used to be doing. In the winter, it felt a little like chilly to have a smoothie, so I went to oatmeal. And now I feel like I'm starting to do that. And I'm realizing having all that before I have caffeine is just like really great for me. And I start with having either a green tea or a black tea to kind of ease into that caffeine instead of like that full on coffee. So for me, even just starting with those small changes has been so helpful to think about what gives me energy. And Rob saying that, I'm trying to get back into planking every day and just finding these small things to test out to say, hey, like, what's giving me energy? And when I'm feeling down and tired, that's okay too. Sometimes we think we have to go, 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 but that whole idea of wintering, bears hibernate. Lions sleep like 20 hours a day. So I love that idea of finding our body rhythms and aligning those. So if you're looking to be in community, the Practice Academy is our community for you. We have over 200 practitioners in there in our 3 different tracks. We have sustainable solo practice, group practice launch, and sustainable group practice. If you're interested in that, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/membership. Also, we couldn't do the show without our sponsor. Today, Alma is our sponsor, and honestly, they have an all-in-one EHR that simplifies your scheduling, your documentation, and all the day-to-day practice operations. I mean, Rob was just talking about not handling his email. Are you still handling all of the billing, all that scheduling and documentation? Come on, let's just take that off your plate. Give it to Alma, make it way easier. Head on over to helloalma.com/Joe. That's hello, ALMA.com/Joe. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.